you're at home with your wife and your partner or your partner, and you get in a big verbal argument. You're screaming and yelling at each other. The neighbor overhears it, and they phone 911, and the police show up. And an officer says to you, the man, for example, look, you need to leave the home and cool off now. I'm not laying charges, but you need to cool off. Can they do that? Should you leave? What should you do in this situation? This is a great topic. This is the Kruse Law YouTube channel, and we answer common FAQ YouTube questions. And this is an important one. Can the police force you to leave the home in this situation, even though no charges are laid? It's a great question. Let me break it down. I'll give you some examples. So first of all, let's start with the example here where the police show up at your home and you're in a domestic altercation. You're a wife and husband, and you've been screaming and yelling at each other. And the police show up and they determine that there's no reasonable probable grounds for a charge, but it's obvious that you guys are at wit's end. The husband's red-faced, the wife's crying or yelling back at the husband, even with the police officer. What's the police officer do in this situation? Well, what the police do in this situation, obviously they can't lay a charge because they don't have reasonable probable grounds. There's been no assault, but it looks like something could occur, right? We need a cooling off period. Now, in this situation, they're not allowed to force you out of the home, but it's become standard practice in the province. The police are going to take a statement from each of you, and they're going to kind of imply that you need to leave. And I agree with this technique. They'll say, look, you need to leave the home. They're not going to say you have to leave the home. We're forcing you out of the home. They're going to kind of imply it. And it's a pretty wise thing. Let's face it, someone needs to leave the home and you need to cool down. And this is good advice. And the police will do this in certain ways and with different words, not specifically stating I'm forcing you to leave, because they're not technically allowed to do that. But a stressed out person who's angry in this situation, you're lucky. Look, no charges are getting laid. You need a cooling off period. We don't want physical violence. The good practice is leave the home, and it's a good practice in Ontario, and a lot of police officers will do this. But can they technically force you to leave the home? You're leaving the home. You have to leave the home. They just phrase it in a certain way that kind of implies that, or people understand. They don't use the exact words. And frankly, I think it's a great practice. I think people need to cool down, stay away, go to a hotel. What's wrong with going to a hotel for a night? Avoid the fight, the verbal fight with your wife. Avoid violence either way, and safety of the public is paramount. So that's one situation. And to answer the original question, they can't force you, but they'll use words that imply it, which might make you think you should leave, and you should leave. Let's face it, I don't think anyone should be staying at a home yelling and screaming at each other in this situation. It's not good for anyone, and especially if there's kids there, whether there's kids or not, though. Very, very important, and that's my advice as a lawyer, to cool off. And I agree that the police do this in this situation, but police are very careful with their words. It's more of an implication than an order, but some people might consider an order. They're lucky because people say to themselves, look, I don't want to get charged. I should just follow this officer. We tend to follow police, don't we, in life? And that's not such a bad thing either in this situation, is it? So what are the exceptions then where the police can force someone to leave a home? Well, obviously a trespasser. If someone's at your home and you've called the police, you want them removed, they're refusing to leave, and you don't want to use physical force. By the way, you're allowed to use reasonable force to remove a trespasser. Is that wise, though? Someone's refusing to leave? I wouldn't. I would phone the police, go to another room, as long as they're not damaging the home, and let the police take care of it. So there's a situation. Another is under the Mental Health Act. So if the police attend your home, let's say you're having a psychiatric episode, the police believe you're a danger to yourself or the public because you're melting down and you're out of your mind at this point. Not to use a pejorative, but you're having a mental health breakdown, and for your own safety, let's say you're suicidal or you're a danger to the public or you're violent, could be violence. The police are allowed to take you to a psychiatric facility. It's called a Form 1 psychiatric assessment. 72 hours, you get treatment, and it's under the care of a psychiatrist, and that's a good thing too. In that situation, the police are allowed to remove you from the home and take you to that psychiatric facility. So that's one. Another is when the Children's Aid Societies become involved and there's reasonable grounds to believe that a child is in need of protection for violence or sexual activity, the police can remove. There's an order that allows the police to remove from the home. There's another one. So trespassers, mental health, child protective services. But ultimately, I think in a situation where intimate partners are in a very heated argument, it makes sense for one of them to remove themselves from that situation. Whether the police arrive or not, they need to remove them. So that's pretty standard advice. I don't think you need to be a criminal defense lawyer to understand that. And, if you're in this situation, I'm telling you in the video, the police can't force you, but let's face it, you've got a break. They haven't laid charges. Just follow their advice, whether you take it as an order or not. Who cares? You don't want to get into further fights with your wife or partner or the husband usually it's the husband that they ask to leave. They typically don't ask the wife or girlfriend. And, unless it's not their home, I suppose. But take the advice, cool off, maybe wait a day, call your girlfriend or wife or husband and work it out and do this sensibly. It just makes perfect common sense to us in the province. And this is what police are encouraged to do by their sergeants but can they force you to leave? No. So if you want to stand to your rights and you want to continue to scream and yell at your wife or vice versa, the wife at you, well, have at it. But that's not very good advice, is it? Take the hint, get out. Consider yourself lucky you weren't charged with something, because maybe there was a threat or maybe there was some violence, but the police just don't have the grounds because they spoke to both of you and couldn't determine who's telling the truth. But you should watch my video as well about mandatory police charging, because if they have grounds, one or both of you is getting charged. And sometimes in this day and age, if the wife says one thing, husband says another, the husband says, she assaulted me, no, he assaulted me, they're charging both. And now you got a conundrum, because everyone wakes up the next day and goes, oh, I don't want these charges laid, I want to get back together. Not the way it works in the province. Watch that video. So what's the ultimate takeaway from this? Look, if you're screaming and yelling at your significant partner, it's not a good thing. You need to cool off. Police show up, take the hint, get the heck out of the home and cool off, and then, you can deal with the situation with cooler heads and stop the argument. So that's my advice to you as well. Follow the yellow brick road to cooling down. So there you have it. Again, it's been a great day of videos. Welcome back to the channel as usual. We really enjoyed it today. And if you like this video, please subscribe. And we got a lot of great videos planned for you very shortly within the next month or two. Thank you for watching our video. We are absolutely committed to bringing you the best possible criminal and DUI educational videos. If you found this video helpful, please like it and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you've been charged with a criminal offense in Ontario and require our services, please click on the link in the description below.